we have some breaking news for you now. The U.S. Supreme Court has temporarily granted a request from Republican governors to keep in place the Trump-era pandemic border rule known as Title 42. It allows the U.S. government to push back asylum seekers out of the country because of the pandemic. That policy was set to expire on Wednesday. And CNN's Jessica Schneider joins us live now. Jessica, tell us more about the decision.
Yeah, Jake, so the Supreme Court just acting here, and because of it, it looks like Title 42 will not end as was anticipated on Wednesday. This has really been a complicated maneuvering through various courts over the past few days and weeks. What the Supreme Court is saying here is they're saying that, yes, we will grant the Republican-led states' request that we put the ending of this program on pause for now, so it will not end on Wednesday as originally planned. However, this is really just temporary relief here. What the Supreme Court is saying is that they want to hear from both parties, the Republican-led states as well as the ACLU. They want more briefing on this, and then they'll decide definitively in the coming days what to do here. But right now, the Supreme Court putting the brakes on the end of this program. Now, this is a fight that has been bouncing all over several courts. It was just Friday night, however, that the U.S. Court of Appeals here in D.C. stepped in and said, hey, Republican-led states, we're not going to let you interfere in this. You can't step in to try to stop Title 42 from going away. Those Republican-led states, though, they moved quickly to the Supreme Court. They filed today, and the Supreme Court acting just as quickly in the past few minutes, saying, yes, we will agree with the Republican-led states. We will put this on hold for right now as this plays out. So, Jake, this is an incremental victory for Republican-led states. It is not the final say on this issue. However, it does give those Republican-led states a victory here by not ending Title 42 on Wednesday. The only caveat that I'll mention here is that briefings from all of these parties, they're due tomorrow. So it's possible, although slight, that the Supreme Court could act in the coming days here before the end of the week. So right now it looks like Title 42 will not end on Wednesday, but the Supreme Court could move pretty quickly here and make a decision, maybe to the contrary, in the coming days. So we continue that ping pong of the court system right now with the Supreme Court stepping in just minutes ago, Jake.
So I know you can't predict, but tell us, what's your assessment about what might happen next? What are the possibilities?
Well, it seems like the mere fact that they're stepping in here and allowing this temporary injunction to take hold, siding with the Republican-led states here, it's possible that they might grant this emergency application, effectively putting Title 42, the end of it, on pause for quite some time. So the Republican-led states could end up having a significant victory here because the Supreme Court could be poised to step in, maybe take up this emergency appeal, kick the can down the road so Title 42 stays in place more than just this week, maybe more than just this month into next year. It appears that the Supreme Court could potentially side with the Republican-led states as they sort of have done in this interim order here, Jake.
All right, I want to bring in CNN's Ed Lavandera into the conversation. Ed, you're at the border, and this is a humanitarian crisis you've been describing for weeks. Shelters are already overflowing. Do you think the Supreme Court keeping Title 42 in place, at least for now, will have any impact on what's going on there?
Well, there are still a steady flow of people crossing the border, irregardless of what is going on with Title 42. So on this side, there are still a large-sized number of people here in the El Paso area who are still being released. So that doesn't really weaken the pressure on the shelters and the churches that have been housing many of these migrants here in the El Paso area. But Jake, as this news was breaking, I was literally in the middle of an interview with a gentleman named Ruben Garcia, and Ruben is one of the, if not the most well-known advocate for migrants here in the El Paso area. He has worked for decades and runs a shelter called the Annunciation House. He is the most prominent person involved in helping migrants and an advocate for the shelters and the churches here in the El Paso area. And as we sat down to do the interview, we were essentially giving him the breaking news about what this was happening. And his reaction was simply this. He's like, they have known for a month that this judge had ordered this, all of this last minute, so you can really sense this sense of frustration and exasperation that so many leaders in Washington have had time to figure out what to do with all of this, but all of this always seemingly coming down to the very last moment in the days. And these are shelters that are trying to plan as far ahead as they can, and right now they're just trying to keep their heads above water, waking up every day, trying to figure out how much bed space and shelter space is available in the city. So all of this, once again, throwing everything up in the air at the very last minute is very frustrating for the men and women who are doing all sorts of intense work to keep the situation here from turning into a humanitarian disaster on the streets of these border towns.
All right, Ed Levendare and Jessica Schneider with the breaking news. Thank you so much.